That's the sound of the Eagles and Take It Easy. We've been talking road trips, favourite road trip songs this morning, and that's one that has been mentioned quite a few times on the text this morning. So there you have it, the Eagles and Take It Easy. All right, I'm joined in studio now by Collie McFadgen, and he's here to talk all things movies. Good morning, Collie.
Good morning, Rory. I was thinking there's two things. One, I arrived quite early today. This is because you were playing the road trip song. I couldn't help myself.
Oh, you pedalled to the metal the whole way up.
There were no tickets. I want to make that very clear. Nothing like that. Yes, I escaped the cages on Highway 9 and I hit the road and I was here. And the other thing is, personal challenge. I heard you talking about, Jackson Browne. I was delighted to play the Jackson Browne song, but you said, oh, do you know what I might do this weekend? I might sit down and watch Forrest Gump. Right, Forrest Gump is great, but I want to convince you that you're going to ring home and go, actually get a babysitter, we're going to the movies instead. This is my challenge.
Oh, what a segue.
Yeah?
What a segue. I love your style. All right, okay. Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. And listen, speaking of going to the movies, there is lots to choose from.
Yes, and I was saying off air, I think this might be a Rory month. There's some months we come up here and I go, oh, I'm very excited about this, and he's going to look at me and go, no. But this month, I think you're going to say a big yes. And we'll start with Spielberg, right? It's a summer blockbuster. You have to mention Spielberg, but maybe not so much in the last few years. And one of the, you've probably seen, I know you're trying to avoid the plot and you don't want to know too much about this, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. But the tagline has kind of been, oh, his best movie for years. And when that's some people, that's kind of damning with faint praise, isn't it? You know, it's like five.
And it's setting up for a pretty big fall.
Yeah, absolutely. But you would say, oh, it's the Rolling Stones' best new single for years. And you go, yeah, but when is their last really exciting? We're all listening to their 70s stuff. But that's not the case with Spielberg. Like, even if you think of the stuff that's not in his top 10, it would be stuff like Ready Player One, Lincoln, the great movies if by anyone else. But so I was in two minds about that, kind of the hype, and you kind of go, oh, will you go in? One of the things I loved about this film, Rory, it just starts. You're right in the action. It's in a hostage situation and it doesn't stop for 2 hours. The vague story that we know there's something alien related. You know that from the trailers. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. Something odd is happening to these two people. Josh O'Connor, who's very much new upcoming star, and Emily Blunt. They don't know each other, but something's happening, something's affecting them. She seems to be able to predict things and can speak many languages. All of a sudden, she's a weather girl. She's kind of known as the kind of sexy weather girl. She wants to be taken seriously. Nobody will. And next thing, she starts coming out with all of these stuff. Then you've Colin Firth, who's kind of shady Men in Black type character without the comedy, is clearly covering something up. Okay. And that's where we start, and it just barrels along from there. And when I say a throwback, I don't want people to think it's old-fashioned or it doesn't fit in with modern times. It definitely does, but it's a throwback in. There's a couple of action scenes that actually reminded me of Indiana Jones, right? There's a bit on the train that is one of the most exciting sequences that Spielberg has ever done. Swashbuckling. Yeah. But then it goes full-on conspiracy theory. You're kind of going, who can you trust in the government? Who can be trusted as they chase around America, trying to meet up other people who will help them? Very X-Files. And there's kind of almost a 70s paranoia. You almost expect Robert Redford to turn up at one stage.
It's probably quite reflective of how people feel nowadays.
Absolutely.
Who can we trust? What news outlets can we trust? What media outlets? What is real and what isn't?
And of course, the first thing, if they say, if we release footage that maybe proves that there's aliens, everyone's going to say, well, that's AI.
Yes, exactly.
I've seen all of that stuff, and yet people will fall for the most unrealistic stuff at the same time. So there's that. But then there is very much a sort of Close Encounters vibe as well, because these people don't know why they're compelled to reveal this, but they are compelled, and we don't know why either. And all of
that is something that I heard, and we did talk about this. One of the few things that was sort of floating around there in the lead up to the release of Disclosure Day was that it was a secret sequel to Close Encounters.
I think so. I can see why people think this. I think it's probably not, but I bet you he got the idea from thinking about what has happened 50 years since Close Encounters. Would the truth be out there? Because in Close Encounters, they meet the aliens and all that, but we don't know, does the rest of the world know or not?
Yeah. That's
never
right,
revealed at the end.
Yeah.
Did they tell everyone, or was it kept in the secret military base? And of course, Steven Spielberg himself said now he would change the end of Close Encounters because he didn't have children at the time of Close Encounters. I am going to mildly spoil the end of Close Encounters for everyone.
Well, listen, it came out in 1975.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
If you haven't seen it now,
he said he didn't have kids, so Richard Dreyfuss gets on the ship. He says Richard Dreyfuss wouldn't get on the ship now if he'd written it now because he wouldn't leave his kids.
Well, funny. Yeah. That is something that it never sat well with me.
Okay, I was afraid there you were going, because in case your kids are listening, that you were going to say, I'd get on the ship. Unless you tidy your bedroom. That's a good way.
Yeah, I'm getting on that ship. Yeah. No, but true though, it never sat well with me, and it was never really believable that he got on that ship and
just went
at
off.
The end. Yeah.
And especially when the other people getting off have been gone for 40, 50 years.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
So, I think there was a bit inspired that, but the most important thing, right, for anyone listening, if people are going, oh yeah, but it's sci-fi aliens, I'm not sure, it's just a cracking action conspiracy theory thriller where people use big words. It's an original idea. Good actors are allowed to act while still being exciting in action. It is ticks all the boxes of those sort of early 70s, early 80s blockbusters.
Good old-fashioned storytelling.
Proper storytelling, but it's also saying, let's throw in a car chase, let's throw in an explosion, let's throw in a bad guy. All of those things, I just think it's really good. And in a summer, I'm very excited about some of the sequels that we're going to talk about. But in a summer that has been really good so far for movies, there's been so many good movies so far this year compared to last year. But I'm really glad one of the big ones we're going to be talking about is an original story. And I think that's a really good thing. Yeah.
Okay. So that's Disclosure Day. So that's the latest, would I dare say, one of the... Do you think this might be Spielberg's swan song?
Oh, I hope not. He's a lot more he's talking about doing a Western. He's saying the one thing he's never done is a Western. And he's talking about that. But he's a couple of movies... Why not?
Yeah.
Rolling Stones are still on tour, to mention the Rolling Stones again. True. He's at least 6 years younger than them. Why not?
Why not indeed?
Ridley Scott is quite a few years older than him, and he's making about 2 more movies.
Clint Eastwood was directing right up until his 90s. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Let's hope so.
So Disclosure Day, it's on release right now. How's it doing?
It's doing really well.
Is it?
Again, because, the weather's good, the World Cup's on and so on. You're not sure why it is. It's doing really well. And, it's a mix of ages, but what's good sign, and this is something we're going to talk about in a minute, word of mouth seems to be good on it. So it's gone slightly up as the days have gone over, because it actually opened early on Wednesday.
Okay.
People are talking about it, saying, oh, you got to check this one out. And it's amazing, in 2026, with all the billions spent on advertising and so on, somebody's saying, here, did you see that show? Works better than anything else.
People making up their own minds. That's what we like. Okay, so we will be talking, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking one of the most highly anticipated sequels easily of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking some of those lower budget ones that people have made up their own minds about. All that to come right after this. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be back after.
From the Rewind Show, going back in time, going back in time.
The time is 15 minutes away from midday. Collie McFadden is in studio with me, and we are talking all things movies. Now, we've just discussed Disclosure Day, which is the latest release from Spielberg, but we're going to scale it back a little bit, Collie, aren't we? We're going to talk about 2 movies that are sort of lower budget and sleeper hits.
Yeah, incredibly so. Spielberg has been talking about them a lot on his we're doing his press tour, because people are asking him, has he seen these low budget movies? We're going to talk Possessions and Backrooms, and he's saying yes, he has, and he loved them. And it occurred to us that when we were talking off air, that if Spielberg was 15, he'd be putting stuff on YouTube with his iPhone. That's exactly what he'd be doing. And this is where the talent has come from. And, while we might worry about screens and stuff like that, and it's a fair point, but also the creative kids are going to but they're going to make stuff for themselves. So this guy called Curry Baker, right? He made this little film. He comes from a YouTube background. He made this little film for $750,000 called Obsession. And it's one of these, it's not even that original a story, but it's original how it's done. It's be careful what you wish for. This guy fancies this colleague he works with. He wishes that she will fall in love with him like nobody else has ever loved everyone. And she becomes obsessed with him. And it's a horror movie, right? That is the trick of it. It has made currently $243 million so far on a budget of $750,000. It has the advertising. They sent one poster to the cinemas, one poster to do on your social media. All the advertising has been teenagers on TikTok telling each other to go and see it. It has been packed every night for 6 weeks. There's a couple of movies, that and Michael, for very different reasons. That got lots of advertising. Should have been gone weeks ago out of the cinema, yet they are number 1 and 2 in the charts.
And you see, this is what I love.
Yeah.
This is a classic example of people making up their own minds about what they want to go to see, and good old fashioned word of mouth. Have you seen this? Are you going to see this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than the seemingly endless bombardment of marketing campaigns for movies from 12 months out.
Yeah, and very generic, kind of, you like this, then you like this. And whereas they're going is, I don't like this, so I made this. That's their version of it. And the other one, Backrooms, is probably even weirder movie, and it's come from a YouTube phenomenon where people put photos of old abandoned offices. And the guy came up with a story for it, made a couple of episodes on YouTube, got a big following, got enough money from it to make his movie. Also packed it out, and it's odd and weird and slow. All the stuff that you think, a 16-year-old would never sit through that. They do, because it's theirs, right? And they are the next generation of filmmakers, and they're saying, we're going to make what we want to make. But what I loved was that Spielberg, who's in his 70s, could see that. Maybe the people who produce movies can't, but Spielberg says, no, they're my guys. I mightn't get everything because I'm older and they're younger, but I get what they're trying to do. He's trying to entertain his friends. That's what I was trying to do when I started out all those years ago. I wanted to make my friends entertained and scare and jump.
And that's what, the George Lucas's, the Steven Spielberg's, the Francis Ford Coppola's, that's what it was. They used to get their friends round and screen their movies for them.
Yeah, and when George Lucas screened Star Wars without the effects, all the friends kind of went, oh, God, this could be disaster. And Steven Spielberg said, you're going to make $1 billion. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, tell you what, I'm so sure of it, I'll swap your percentage points from Close Encounters. So George Lucas got 1% of the take for Close Encounters, and Steven Spielberg got it for Star Wars, because he was so confident. He was so confident it was going to be it. That was a good bit of business.
That wasn't it just?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a gamble that won.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so Obsession and Backrooms, they're in
They're
theaters
both in.
the
Obsession's probably is probably the one for everyone, although it's scary. It's a 16s, and 15A is for Backrooms. It's a bit weirder and odder if you like arty stuff.
Okay.
But it's, again, 16-year-olds going to see weird stuff that isn't explained to them. It's great. It's brilliant for cinemas because, maybe they're not interested in the movie we're going to talk about next, but it means there's something for everyone, which is what I always love.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So let's shift gears slightly, because we're going to talk about one of the. There's no getting away from this. It is one of the most highly anticipated sequels of the last 10. Well, when was the last one? It was about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, and Toy Story is 30 years old. Last year, I know.
Frightening.
It is frightening. And the thing about Toy Story was, I think the first 3 films are genuinely, no hyperbole or exaggerating, 3 of the greatest movies ever made. Full stop for anyone. Not children's movies, everyone. The last one was a fine children's movie, but I thought it was that. And if it was called The Story of Toys, you'd go, that's a brilliant movie. I don't know if it hit the heights of a Toy Story, although Forky was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it hit the heights. However, and I saw they're making Toy Story 5, and I was going to go, oh, home, because it was announced with Frozen 3, and I was going to go, that's good, but how interesting can it be? And then I heard the plot. Bonnie gets an iPad, and the toys don't know how to handle it. And I went, that is brilliant, because that is every parent's dilemma. For all we're talking about the kids now creating stuff with screens, every parent, should they be playing with toys? Should they be outside? iPad can be educational.
Representative of the shift that's sort of has sneaked up on us in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, so Woody and Buzz come back to help the other toys because they can't cope with Bonnie, who's just neglected her toys, and she's obsessed with the iPad called Lilypad. But even the toys are getting a bit old, and the paint's rubbed off the top of Woody's head and looks like a bald spot. And you're going, oh my God, they're talking to me for this. And that's the way Toy Stories always have. I remember watching Toy Story 3. I was running the Adventure Centre at the time. We brought a load of French and Spanish and Italian kids. They're all about 12, 13. They absolutely loved it on one level. And myself, I was maybe in my late 30s and there was a couple of lads in their late 20s watching. We were sitting at the back, the bit where the toys look like they're going to meet their end, sobbing our eyes out, right? While all the teenagers go, hey, isn't this great? Because we lived on, and Toy Story's always worked on that. There's always like a poignancy and a sadness. In Toy Story 2,
that's true. They always did that.
When
really
Jessie
well.
sings about her child growing up and not wanting to play with her anymore, kids are going, oh, that's a nice song, and their parents are in bits. You're thinking, going, I wonder is my toy still in the attic and mum's, I might have to go back. That's always been their genius. The vibes are really good. Rory, I haven't seen this yet. I'm going to see it on Tuesday. But here's the thing about it that always makes me feel good. So the reviews are still embargoed, but Disney told people they could put on social media if they liked it or not. That means they're pretty confident it's good. Like, they only ever say that. It happened the same with Disclosure Day, Project Hail Mary. All of those, they said, no, you can let out how you feel. So it sounds like we might be back up to the some of the greatest movies ever made. I just think, and again, Tom Hanks doesn't need the money. I don't think he'd come back.
No,
if it wasn't
that's
good.
true. That's true, and the same goes for Tim Allen.
Yeah. They
and all
don't.
the
They
rest.
don't need to.
The
do
fact
it.
that these guys in their 60s and 70s are coming back to voice these characters that they did 30 years ago, it really does. It shows.
I remember with
There's an affection there for it as well.
I don't know if you remember with Toy Story 2, famously, they were going to do one of the way Disney often did it. They made one big movie and everything else was direct to DVD kind of knockoffs, wouldn't do the quality. Yeah. And Tom Hanks and Tim Allen put their foot down and said, we will do it again, and for like a very reasonable price. But it has to be, you have to get the proper writers in and make it. You are not ruining this story. It's too good a story to ruin. So I can't wait. I'm going to see it on Tuesday. I'll send you a wee text.
Oh,
let you know. Let you know.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Toy Story 5. So when does that actually release?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday evening. And, it's going to be around for weeks and weeks. And, we have a Minions next month as well. So July is going to be jam-packed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you're going to be choggers.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Toy Story 5. All right. So, 2 upcoming releases in towards the end of the month. We're going from Toy Story.
Yeah, one for you, one not for you, right?
Yeah, Toy Story, and now we go to Jackass.
Yep.
Now, these guys, I'm not getting this. I'm not understanding this. I mean, Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
What age is he now?
Yeah, he's getting up there too. I think there's some new stuff, and I think there's kind of a compilation of their best stuff. But here's my theory on Jackass. Now, I stole this. I read it, right? So we know about all this stuff that, parents are out there worrying about this, the manosphere and all this sort of male, stuff with aggressive males and so on. And a woman, I read it in the paper, she said she thinks the problem is there's not enough Jackass anymore because the lads that she all grew up with that were nice, one of the ways they got out all that aggression and too much testosterone was doing stupid things with their friends to make each other laugh. And I went, do you know what? There's a point there. That is exactly what me and my friends did. Slapping each other as hard as we could, laughing, hedge diving on the way home. We thought that was the funniest thing.
We all did it,
yeah. The funniest thing in the world. None of this, down the gym saying, oh, I don't need people. It was... Let's see who can kick each other in the bum the hardest. Yeah. Was and laugh ourselves off. Now, we had no girlfriends, but we entertained ourselves, and maybe that's the way. So Jackass has come back, and here's the thing: it has a niche on, but it'll do really well. Possibly more interesting for you. Now, you are a much bigger Superman fan than I am, and I know you were pleasantly surprised by the last Superman.
No, I was not. I was sorely disappointed.
Oh, I'm getting you mixed up.
Oh, you're definitely getting me mixed up. I was not a happy camper.
Oh, okay.
No. But look, it is what it is. My expectations were sort of low anyway.
I've just realised who I'm thinking of. Sorry about that, Rory. I sometimes talk to other people about movies. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of you the whole time, Rory.
How could you? How could you?
But you might remember at the end, Supergirl turns up, and she is the opposite of Superman. Yeah. He's a good guy. She's a hot mess. And this is set in that world. I thought her cameo at the end was very entertaining.
It was probably one of the most entertaining parts of the movie because I actually sat up and went, oh, right, fair enough, that was funny.
Yeah, and it kind of explained the dog as well, which I was happy about. So now we're going off into this. It's different director, different story, but it seems to be much more of a sort of a Guardians of the Galaxy comedy.
Yeah.
Sort of action comedy. I have no idea how it'll go, but they position it now because we've got Toy Story, we've got Disclosure Day. Coming up soon in July, as well as Minions, we've got Odyssey, which everyone is avoiding, like all the other films are avoiding. Nobody wants to open any time close to it. And then at the end of the month, Spider-Man, which is going to be huge because it's a big year all round. There's lots of big tentpole movies. So it'd be interesting to see if Supergirl flies or not.
Yeah, and you know what? Like the way it's been marketed, there hasn't been a hell of a lot out there.
No.
And I think marketing, like you say, Guardians of the Galaxy type humor, type marketing, the way it's been set up, I think it probably will. I would nearly hedge a bet that it would go better and perform better than Superman.
Well, we'll talk about that in July.
We have loads to talk about in July. Collie, thanks so much for joining us this morning, and we will talk to you in July. And that's where we wrap things up for another Saturday morning. Thanks to everyone who got in touch with the show with the requests, the dedications, the wonderful suggestions for music as well. Thanks to Geraldine for her help on the programme. Ryan's on his way with a news update for you, followed by Paul McDevitt and the Saturday Shuffle. But we're going to wrap it up right there.